1330 engine. I am pulling it right now. So in my last video, I realized I had no content whatsoever. However, it was more of a status for my video documenting of my complete restoration. Also, I did not realize how close I was to pulling the engine out last time. I stopped prematurely. After I cut the camera off, I jacked up the car and I crawled under and I did a couple things that took maybe 5-10 minutes at the most, and it's ready to pull. So I'm going to show you what I did because unlike the previous video with zero content, this has a little bit of information that I need to remember. So let's go. This tie rod here looks like it goes to the subframe and then it goes to a bracket that's mounted to the engine. That's got to come loose. Golly, it almost felt loose. It's not very tight, is it? Good Lord, that's not, I don't think that's, I don't know. But that, and then just looking at it, it looks like these guys here, let me get some light in here. Let's see. It looks like the selector, this guy, and maybe that bolt up there, those two have to be disconnected from the transmission. So that looks like it's fairly accessible, no big deal. Then the only other items, well, okay, then the steering, this goes out to the wheel. So the steering linkage, or the drive shaft, whatever you want to call that, drive shaft, that has to come off on both sides, one on the other side as well. Yep, that one there. So that's got to come out. And then the only other thing is the engine mounts, I guess, and that looks like these guys right here. These looks like these two. Now on this, on the clutch side, I guess, is that correct? Am I thinking correctly? On this side, it's very tight in there. So I don't know if I can just, unscrew those and all is good, or what. But on the other side, let's see, go to the other side. Those two bolts there are accessible from the inside as well. So underneath the radiator is already removed. So that shouldn't be an issue. So I might crack on and work on this. Oh, you know what? Also the exhaust. I may have to try to remove the exhaust, from in that area. I don't know. Maybe I can get the engine out with those pipes going up. Maybe so. But it doesn't look like a horrible chore to get this engine out. Okay, so these are the two tools that I used down to remove the selector gear linkage and the pot joint. This bad boy punch, I am so glad I bought it. Yes, you can use any type of punch to get in there, but this guy that I purchased straight from Mini Spares was beautiful. This is the pin. This is the pin that holds the selector level in place to the gearbox, and you can see this has the punch tool has a little knob on it that fits perfectly inside that. It's a perfect diameter, and it's so easy. You put the gear selector in third gear, or at least for me, maybe it works in other gears, but in third gear, this pin was easily accessible to be punched out. So I didn't try all the gears, so I don't know which gear is best, but I had it in third gear and it was beautiful. Absolutely. I punched it right out. I mean, yeah, it took a little bit of at first, but then once it started going, it came right out. So Of course, now I'm going to have to put this in a baggie. But this punch tool, and I'll pop the part number up on the link here. I'll show it here. But perfect punch tool for that selector gear linkage. Then the other tool that I used was this pot joint remover. This sucker is one hefty piece of metal, and it's also from Mini Spares. And I don't know how well the camera's picking that up, but the Mini Spares part number is 18G1240. I don't know if that's picking that up. Again, 18G1240. But this bad boy was awesome. This thing removed the pot joints like it was nothing. And I'm going to crawl under now and just show you how I did it. All right, so I've learned that this is called the pot joint. I guess it's where the drive shaft steering linkage comes into the gearbox. And this bad boy, this is the tool that I used. Now it's got a flanged edge here. Now I made the assumption because this guy right here has also got a flange to it. A radius, not a radius, but yeah, a flange. And so I put it in like this. I put it in like this. I used a small hammer like this. And I knocked it up, and then I knocked it this way to basically push the pot joint out, and it worked like a charm. This is absolutely awesome. I totally recommend it. Now, the one thing that I learned, of course I learned it after the fact, but mine turned out okay. I had already drained the oil from the engine. However, I learned later from Sean Coyle that normally, a lot of people remove the gear, the steering linkage from the wheel because here, if you remove it here while the engine has oil in it, oil will pour out of this. In my case, it worked out beautiful because I had already drained the oil. So when I popped this off, there was no oil to come out. So that's how I did that. And then, of course, on the other one, the steering linkage here, let me try to put this back up. This guy just popped right out with it in third gear using that punch tool. The pin came right out, and then the bolt up here was, it was straightforward. There's no hindrance, nothing about it. It came right out. So all that's done, and I'm going to have to tie it up now. But so now the pot joints are not fully taken off because as I raise the engine, this will give it, because of this, it'll give it a little bit of slack, and then I can just push it out with ease. So right now you can see that it was pushed up tight against that, but right now there's a good 1 inch plus gap in there. And now as I raise the engine, that'll just come right out. So that part is done. So my plan to lift the engine is the whole top part of the engine was already removed. So, and I couldn't easily remove these rods, so rather than messing with these, I am just going to pull straight up on these rods. What I did was I put two nuts, one on the bottom side with a larger area washer, and then this one on the top side. That way, that basically it traps this bracket from going up or down. Now I can pull straight up. If for some reason, I know these rods are strong enough to pull the weight of the engine. However, if for some reason they bend or something, then I'll just replace them. I don't think it'll hurt the threads inside the engine case. But so I did it on opposite ends. The other thing worth noting is the horns. I have not removed them. I'm going to try to tilt the engine as I lift it straight up. I'm going to try to tilt it so that I can keep pulling it and miss the horns. But if for some reason I think I cannot do it or I'm going to hit the horns, I'll remove the wheel and take the horns out. Now the only other thing, I know that there's an accelerated cable down on the bottom of the engine. So as I lift the engine up, I will disconnect that. I will also, as I lift the engine, I will also remove the pot joints the remainder of the way off of the gearbox or out of the gearbox. And then right now, the next step is there are still 4 bolts, engine mount bolts. I have already loosened them up almost all the way, but now I wanted to put a little bit of, I wanted to support the engine with the engine hoist. And so now I'll crawl under, I'll remove those 4 bolts. and then I'll lift it up and it should be out. All right, mission success. The engine is out. Now I'm going to tie up the pot joint and the gearing steering linkage. I'm going to tie it up so that it doesn't fall and drag and whatever else. And I'll tie up the exhaust manifold and any wiring, just kind of get it out of the way, keep it out of the way for now. And I did it. I did not have to remove the horns. You know, I had to push the engine a little bit to the left-hand side, and with while my wife was hoisting the engine up, I was pushing it a little bit, and relatively painless. So from my last video to now, it has taken me, I guess in all honesty, it's taken me close to an hour. I don't think it was over an hour, but close to an hour. Again, if I were doing this again, I could have done it probably well under 30 minutes. This part of it anyhow. But so that's it. Engine's out. Now I'm going to start to disassemble it and go from there. All right, bye just now.